Let's talk about maskne. That was a little too enthusiastic for this topic. Maskne is horrible. I wanted to make a video today to talk about what it is and some tips that have been recommended by experts, including dermatologists, to treat it. So maskne is a term that's been coined to refer to acne that is a direct result of wearing a mask. I want to make it clear that this video is encouraging you to continue to wear your mask diligently in order to protect yourself and others around you. I also want to provide a disclaimer that I'm not a dermatologist and this isn't meant to be medical advice and should not replace the recommendations of your treating healthcare provider. While I'm not a dermatologist, I did take a lot of time to do this research and to pull different opinions from different resources and to compile them into this video with some concrete steps that you can take and that I've personally taken to reduce future outbreaks. So I have been dealing with some acne right here on my cheek, which, a couple of months ago I had one of my first breakouts in that area. It's not in a region that I typically break out in, and so I thought it was unusual, but I didn't really think much of it. A couple of weeks ago I got two really kind of gnarly flare-ups. And then more recently I started learning about this type of acne called acne mechanica, which is really the scientific term for maskne. So to provide a little background, acne mechanica, which is colloquially referred to as maskne, is caused by heat, pressure, and friction that's exerted onto the skin. So of course masks are sort of the perfect facilitators of this, right? Because they sit so closely to the skin and rub against the skin. And in addition to that, you're breathing when you're outside. You're breathing because you're a living being, and you might be sweating a lot because it could be humid, it could be really hot where you are, just depending on your geography. And so that all sort of culminates in the perfect environment for bacteria to flourish. In addition, this environment can cause the pores to become clogged, irritated, and inflamed, which are all precursors to acne. So if you don't wash your face mask between uses, you're essentially inviting bacteria to come out and play in your skin microbiome. The bacteria accumulate on your mask, so when you take it off and throw it in a dark corner, as we do, the bacteria starts to grow, and then of course you go on to put the mask on again before you go outside, and then you're effectively occluding the bacteria to your face. So to add to the chaos, of course, it's a really stressful time for a lot of people. People are stressed out, maybe you're losing sleep or have irregular sleep patterns. And all of these things have been shown to contribute to the presence of acne. But really the primary point I want to drive home today is that the friction caused by masks can really impair the skin barrier. And an impaired skin barrier can make you more prone to dryness, irritation, and acne. That's why having a really good, consistent, and simple skincare regime is of paramount importance, especially if you're dealing with something like maskne. So let's move on to the tips, which is why you're here. The first one, if you haven't guessed, which I kind of alluded to already, is to wash your mask between uses. This isn't very practical, I get that, especially if you are used to using a washing machine, but you can wash your mask by hand. I suggest using a fragrance-free detergent or soap and just lathering this into the mask and then running it under warm water in your sink. Get all that soap off and then hang it to dry. So obviously it's a little bit more logistically plausible if you have more than one mask, so you can rotate them while one is drying. So the next one seems counterintuitive, but experts seem to agree that using a natural material for your mask is the best way to prevent the irritation that masks can facilitate and then lead to acne. So the reason why is because something like cotton, which is a natural material, is gentler on the skin. So it will create less friction and less of that irritation and inflammation that is a precursor to acne. And in addition, it allows for more ventilation than a polyester. So acne bacteria thrive in anaerobic states or, environments without oxygen. So the more ventilation that you can create, the better. So cotton fibers are just inherently better at doing this. My next tip is for people who exercise outdoors and hopefully are wearing a mask if you're in a populated area. It's to limit the amount of strenuous exercise that you're doing outdoors. If you can take any of the strenuous stuff that you do outdoors and bring it inside, you won't have to wear a mask in your own home, right? So then you won't have the problem of all the sweat kind of accumulating under the mask. So I've been doing all of my exercise at home recently, and I've primarily been sticking to yoga because I've been having lower back pain, but there's so many workouts available on YouTube, anything from low impact yoga to high intensity like HIIT training. So the rest of the tips are going to be focused on what you can do and not do in your skincare regime in order to prevent future outbreaks. The first tip is to stop using products during the day that have oils. So some are better than others. Jojoba oil and castor oil and hemp seed oil are all lower on the comedogenic scale, but then you have things higher up like coconut oil, cocoa butter, palm oil, etc. There's a lot. So you might say, well, I've been using this product for so many years or so many months and never had any issues with it before, wearing a mask. Well, here's the thing. Your skin microbiome is subject to change at any point in time given the environment that you're introducing it to. And so when you're using a mask, you're essentially introducing a new environment to your microbiome. And in addition, like we talked about earlier, loss of sleep or increased stress can also change the biology of your skin. Don't assume that just because you've been using a product for a long time and it didn't clog your pores, that it won't clog your pores today or tomorrow. Back to the tip of oil-free, the less you can have on your face, the better. So if possible, just get rid of the makeup step and focus on your sunscreens. Sunscreens will protect the skin barrier. So you wanna make sure you're wearing those every day, but look for sunscreens that are non-comedogenic and or oil-free. So some options for that would be any of the Cotz sunscreens. I have a few. I reviewed a couple and I'll link that. But those two were tinted, so if you're not into tinted sunscreens, then they also have a non-tinted zinc formula. I haven't tried this one yet, so I can't really say if it looks okay on brown skin, but it's available. And by the way, any products that I mentioned will be linked below. In addition, you have your DRMTLGY sunscreens that are oil-free. I did a review of the tinted one. And Elta MD, which is basically a more expensive version of the same thing. You could also go for the Korean Purito Comfy Water Sunblock, which I also reviewed. It's a mineral sunscreen. Some other options are Supergoop, the Unseen formula, or La Roche-Posay Anthelo's line of sunscreens, and the Neutrogena Sensitive Skin Face Sunscreen. So I haven't used any of those four, but I know that they're all oil-free or non-comedogenic, so I'll link them for you just so that there's options. So along those lines, the next tip is around fragrance. So you should avoid fragrance, especially if you're experiencing this kind of type of acne, which is a result of irritation, really. In addition, when you wear a mask, it can allow some of these ingredients, including fragrance, to penetrate even deeper into the skin, which increases the likelihood of irritation developing. And of course, irritation leads to inflammation, which increases the likelihood of developing inflammatory acne. So the next tip is around keeping your skin clean. And if you're like me, you only wash your face once a day because you know how harmful overwashing your face can be to your skin barrier. However, I feel like these are extenuating circumstances. So an option to consider, and I know it's controversial, is makeup removing wipes. Before you click away and unsubscribe, hear me out. Makeup wipes are not great. They're not good at removing water-resistant sunscreen or makeup, ironically, and they can leave a residue on the face, which if they have a lot of fragrance can be really irritating. However, if you find a fragrance-free product, it can actually remove some excess sweat and dirt that accumulates on the skin after wearing a mask. So if you've tried all of the previous tips and you're still experiencing flare-ups, it might be worth considering just using a wipe after you take off your mask and then going on about your day. But of course, apply sunscreen after you use this. So a good option in terms of makeup wipes, and there's not a lot, but the Simple brand gentle cleansing wipes are good. They include hydrating ingredients like glycerin and panthenol. Another option, and this is one that I learned about from Dr. Dre, she did a Amazon skincare video and she recommended the Skin Smart Facial Cleansing Spray. So it's an antibacterial spray that can be used multiple times a day. It can also be used for post-workouts as well if you don't have access to a shower or whatever and you've sweated a lot. Sweated a lot? Yeah. You've sweated a lot? You've sweated a lot. So the next tip is, if you don't already, to consider using an anti-acne face wash or leave-on treatments, whether that be salicylic acid or benzoyl peroxide or azelaic acid. I did make a video where I compared salicylic acid and benzoyl peroxide. You know, azelaic acid and benzoyl peroxide will directly kill the bacteria, whereas salicylic acid will dissolve some of the excess oil and skin cells that clog the pore and allow bacteria causing acne to thrive. So the next tip is to avoid any kind of harsh mechanical exfoliation. Like I talked about, when you're wearing a mask, you're introducing that kind of friction and irritation, possibly all day. So you don't want to, in addition to that, go in with a harsh brush and brush away your skin barrier. Especially in this time, you should avoid doing anything like that or using any kind of like sugar scrubs or any other type of face wash that has small granules in it, because those can just really destroy the skin barrier. And the next tip is to use a good moisturizer, especially at night after you've taken off all of your sunscreen and you're just ready to go to bed and let your skin heal and restore itself. A good moisturizer is key to that. My favorite, and the one that I've just been using religiously for the past few months, is the CeraVe moisturizing cream in a tub. Which one you use will depend on your climate and how humid it is. You know, this could be maybe too thick in the summer for you, but CeraVe also has a moisturizing lotion. I have a CVS dupe, which is the exact same thing. So the difference between these two is that the lotion doesn't have petrolatum, so it's less thick. Overall, these two products are really good because they contain ceramides and glycerin and hyaluronic acid, so a lot of hydrating ingredients that can also restore the skin barrier, as well as some occlusives like dimethicone to really lock in that moisture. Or you might consider using this Aveeno Daily Moisturizing Lotion. This one actually does have petrolatum in it, so I would say it's kind of in between these two in terms of thickness. And moisturizer during the day is also important. I personally just use my sunscreens. Most of them contain a hydrating and a moisturizing component. And finally, don't overdo it with your skincare. I know it may be tempting to turn to skincare for entertainment and whatnot, and there's like a lot of people posting videos using obscure, new, interesting actives that are different colors. Right now you need to be focusing on healing and keeping your skin barrier intact. You know, the three pillars of skincare really are a sunscreen, a cleanser, and a moisturizer. If you aren't already implementing those, start there and then start introducing some of these new things one at a time so that you can examine the cause and effect if you do have an adverse reaction to any of them. If you've more newly adopted some actives into your routine and are experiencing breakouts, consider backing off from them for a little while you implement these other steps, just to make sure that those work first, and then you can start incorporating those back in. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed it and are still here. And assuming that you're still here, give the video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Subscribe, ring the notification bell. Yeah, let me know if you found any other tips that you find helpful. Leave it in the comments. Other people could read those and they could potentially help them out. I'll see you next time. All right, bye.